Hello, we are live with our WordNerds Sundays chat. This is one of our book club weeks, and we are talking about Damsel Distressed by Kelsey Macke. We have been hyping this one up for a while now, ever since we all started reading it, and we pretty sure it's safe to say, but we'll find out in a second. We've all quite enjoyed this book. So we're going to start with our ratings for the book and just some quick thoughts on it, and we'll start with Kellen.
My rating is like a 4.5. Like, I really, really love the book, but I have this really big thing with dialogue, and that's the only problem that I really saw, was at times, as I'm reading it, I didn't feel it flowing out, but I also kind of feel like it's one of those things that if you hear it out loud, it's different than reading it. I don't know. It was some of it was a little weird, but definitely 4.5 stars.
And Emma.
I'm definitely going to give it 5 stars. I loved it a lot.
Right.
Just pretty much a lot of things about it. So.
Yeah.
Megan?
This is an easy 5 for me, too. Because a book is usually a 5 in my head if it can make me do 2 things. If it can make me laugh out loud, like audibly laugh, and if it can make me cry. And this book made me do both. So
I'll agree with that.
5 for me.
For me, I contemplated 4.5, but I'm giving it a 5 as well, mostly because it had that can't put it down quality that I just, whenever you find it, it's worth hanging on to and figuring out how the story ends. I think I did it in 1 or 2 sittings just because I was desperate to see what happened and so in love with the characters, which, coincidentally, is where we're going to start talking. So, Imogen, Grant, Jonathan, Antoinette, Bryce, I remember people's names from 2 minutes ago when we talked about it.
We did not review those right before we went live.
Thoughts, guys? You were talking about this like 2 seconds ago.
I fell in love with Grant immediately. It's really easy to fall in love with him, though. Yeah, I don't know. He just kind of jumped off the page for me, and it's one of those things I don't actually find that a whole lot in contemporary. Like, I want to, but they just don't have that loud of a voice, and just their relationship. They're my favorite ship of the year is Imogen and Grant because they're awesome.
Yeah, Grant really reminded me of Levi in Fangirl.
That's what I was
like
thinking.
It's Kath and Levi, and this year is Imogen and Grant.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. I loved that he was definitely a nerd, but he wasn't like, like John Green nerds, where they talk really, really smart and they're like a little bit pretentious kind of nerds. And he wasn't like that. He was like a normal nerd.
Yeah. He was a believable nerd.
That's the kind of nerd I was, and that's the kind of nerd my husband was.
That's the kind of nerd I am, so.
Yeah, exactly.
They very much read as like real teenagers, that they all had these things that they were super passionate about, and that's why they kind of came alive for me, that they were so believable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that they were really involved in something like with all their theater stuff, because I feel like sometimes when I read contemporary books, they're very much these teenagers that, like, school is sort of mentioned, and then they just, like, hang out and, like, go home. And that's, like, all they do. Like, I don't know. And I had, like, my high school experience was very, like, I was in band. And I was to band like Imogen is to the theater department. Like, I loved band.
Yeah.
When I was in, and most of my friends had something they did outside of just regular school. So I really liked that they were involved in something and really passionate about something, because I felt like that was more realistic than a lot of contemporary teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that for the adverse effect. I was the kid who went to school and came home every day. Looking back, I wish I did more after school, like extracurriculars or something. I'm definitely going to push, my children into doing stuff like that. But it was nice to get into that mindset of not having the boring, high school experience. And I did really like it.
Mm-hmm. It was nice to have those sorts of teens represented in a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I loved all of the little theater things that she wove in. Because I took like some drama classes in high school, but I didn't really do drama. I was in the orchestra, and so I kind of was like an outsider looking in on all of their cool little traditions, and it was very similar to like how she described it. Like, my high school, they would squeeze hands, and then they would throw glitter, and it was like very, and it just felt very realistic to me.
I was in drama in high school, although like I took drama classes all the way through. I don't think I took drama club all the way through, but it was never quite that dramatic Okay, weird word choice. But like we never had those fun. Like we had fun traditions, but no glitter throwing or hand holding, or it was just kind of sillier and more relaxed. So I liked seeing kind of the flip side of it, because I'm sure for the kids who took drama really seriously, drama club was more like that. But for me, it was just fun. So it was cool to see it represented that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a very dramatic drama teacher. She must have been like 50-something, and she would wear these really tight, really shiny pants, and she had this really, like, bad A pixie cut, and, like, she just, like, would walk in and just, she knew exactly what she was doing, and she just, like, owned the room, and I think it, like, led to all of the students being the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you could definitely tell that, like, drama was something that Kelsey loves. You know, that was, like, something she had experience with. Like, it didn't feel like, sometimes you'll, like, read a book and they'll, like, mention, like, characters who are, like, in the marching band at the high school, and I'm like, that is so unrealistic. Like, like watching Gilmore Girls, and there's an episode where Lane, like, comes home in a blizzard in her marching band uniform, like, that would never happen! So it was, like, cool to see, like, it was obviously someone who knew something about what they were writing about.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, man.
One of my favorite things, all right, so I'm just flipping through and looking at my highlights, and I used pink highlighter so it would match the cover.
Aww.
I'm weird like that.
So cool.
I wish I had a hard copy.
I waited to get the hard copy to start reading this. But
it's the next thing I'm buying.
The parents had like a really big role in the book. It wasn't just, I mean, her father was, gone away on business, but Evelyn was there. And even though her father was gone, she still talked about him enough
he was
that
still
you knew he was there. He was still in the picture. And I really liked the build-up of her relationship with Evelyn in the end. That's the part that made me cry, was the whole scene with Evelyn. And I love the fact that they're actually in the book, that they play a huge role in the characters' development.
I like that they're in the book and that they're realistic parents too. They're not like caricature parents like you get a lot of the time. Like they very much feel like I felt like Evelyn was one of those characters that really surprised me because I felt like it could have been really, really easy to make her like the mean stepmom.
Especially with the way they were portraying this.
Too, especially with the Cinderella parallel. I was expecting her to be really mean, so when she was really nice, I'm like, there's something going on here. She's not really that nice. And then you get to be like, well, crap, she really is that nice.
Yeah, like, I like that because that's realistic, Like, you don't get the evil stepmom that often.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool because I think particularly in contemporary, when you get parents who are very involved or who are like there, as opposed to being absentee type parents, they tend to be very like hands off still. Like, sorry, my hand says chili. They tend to be very like, oh yeah, do whatever you want. Let's talk about like drinking.
Let's have a teenage boy, Yeah, let's have a teenage boy spend a night in your room. Like, I understand how that started and how they let it slide because, of her issues, but, I mean, come on.
And I loved that she wasn't, like, the parent that would have been easy for Imogen to have had. That she was, like, they did butt heads, even though you could tell she was obviously being so nice and so good to her.
Yeah, that kind of comes back to the whole realistic teenagers thing, that fighting with your parents is a big part of any teenager's existence.
Oh, definitely.
It's just like, you don't see that in, like, contemporary way anyway, really.
Like, believable fights, though. Like, I've seen it before to where it's like, all right, that's either way extreme or, like, it was just added in for effect. Like, this was really believable, like, teenage angst against your parents and against your, parents getting remarried. And dealing with the step-parent and everything, like, it was extremely realistic.
Yeah, you could see it as an extension of what Imogen was going through and where she was emotionally and, like, why she was lashing out when she was. And so well done.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a parent-daughter relationship done that well since, like, Lola and the Boy Next Door.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Cricket also kind of reminds me of Grant.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite, like, YA contemporary boys tend to fall into a similar, like...
They tend to be, like, the really
skinny
boy.
Yeah. My type.
All right, so we've talked about characters. What else jumped out? If anyone hasn't seen it yet, I just want to quickly show off some of the drawings.
I want to see this.
Yes, I showed off one of my videos. Where's the one that I liked a lot?
I tried to get a sample of the song, because there's a CD that goes with this that I need to listen to still, that Kelsey was going to send this one.
I actually went through, and I think I made it 4 songs in, like, continuously. So as I read and I saw the picture, I scanned and, like, I stopped reading and I actually listened to it.
I'm so jealous.
I finished reading at a part where it wasn't convenient enough for me to actually listen to the songs.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to. But it's pretty awesome. Like, I only got through half of them, so I had to actually go and listen to the rest of the songs. But, and now I had, like, one stuck in my head the entire day yesterday, and I can't remember which one it was. Mm-hmm. But she's got some vocal cords, man. Holy crap.
Yeah, the CD wasn't out yet when I was reading the book, so now I have it. I'm sure I will be rereading this, though, so it won't be an issue.
Oh, this is a reread. And like I said with Fangirl, I don't reread very often because I can't. It's like I can rewatch a movie all the time because that's only like maybe an hour of my life. But the books, I can't reread books all the time. But I feel like this is definitely going to be a reread.
Yeah, I've already started rereading it. I don't even have the pretty version yet. I just have like a NetGalley version.
It's one of those things though that like you start reading it, you read it once all the way through, you get the big effect, but like I can pick it up and I can read a chapter now, put it down, do other things, read other things, write, and then pick it up whenever I'm around to it, and then pick up where I left off because it's just the characters. I don't know what it is, but honestly, I think it's contemporary for me because I know I posted on Twitter that I can't write contemporary to save my life. I don't know why. I need that like a fantastical element in my books in some way, shape, or form. But I can read it like it's no one's business. Like this book, I wanted to read it all in one day, but you know when to put a book down when you can't remember the last 3 pages that you read. Yeah. Because you're sleeping, you're trying to stay awake. So I made it to like 251 pages in like at least 20 hours, and I was like, all right, I need to sleep now. But yeah. I blow through them so fast.
Yeah, I guess that was my problem too.
Yeah, I read it in one day.
Yeah. I don't necessarily absorb everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
So, did anyone have any problem areas with the book, or anything that threw you off at all, or?
My only thing was the dialogue. I should have took note of the dialogue as well, just for an example. But I don't want to flip through now. But there was just like very few, like less than 5 points in the book where I was reading a dialogue, like when I don't think it was a monologue, but it was a decent chunk of someone talking, and I just like stumbled over it a little bit before I had to reread it a few times to try and make it flow in my head because that's what I have to do with dialogue. I don't know why, but that's like the only problem that I had was those like 5 points.
Was it Jonathan who had the hands?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I would have liked for more of that to be woven in. Like, I would have liked for that reveal to come earlier, so you could like watch it affecting him now.
Yeah,
I think that's really interesting, and it's not like those compulsions aren't really something you see very often in young adult literature yet. There's a lot of like disabilities that are underrepresented, and I would have loved to see more of that. Obviously, this is like super diverse, you know. This book has lots of things going for it, so it's not like a huge complaint, but I would have loved to see more.
I just want to spend more time with all of these characters.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I
think one thing I was like slightly, I don't even know if it was disappointed, but I was a little bit surprised about was like Ella's story. Because I kind of expected there to be more of a reason to what was going on with her, and it felt a little bit like a letdown. Like, just, people made fun of her in her old school, and I was expecting something bigger about why she was doing.
I know it was like hinted part of the way through, so I kind of had an idea that that's what her issue was. But I wanted a little bit more into what happened to her, and not just kids were mean to her. You know, like I expected a big heartfelt moment between the two, but I also kind of understand why it wasn't, because not all relationships are completely patched up. Like, did she go back to her school? Did she stay? Did they make up? that's open-ended for like the reader to kind of like piece in.
See, I kind of wanted something more in the other direction, that I wanted a little more dimension to her character. She was just a little, like, left near the end, but a little too stereotypically evil stepsister, the mean girl. So...
The one person that was, like, too much of the stereotype for me, I think. I was like, I don't feel like... I mean, maybe the bullying was worse than it seemed like in the book, because in the book it just seemed like, oh, people, like, spread rumors about her, so she's, like, viciously, horribly mean. And I was like, that doesn't quite make sense to me, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes along with what she did to Imogen as well. Like, we actually physically saw that happening. And so to compare it to just say that she was picked on too, kind of did fall a little bit. But I definitely would have liked a bigger...
blood dropped on her or something, and like that made her really mean.
Yeah.
Like a Carrie moment.
Even if she hadn't toned down like the bullying, because she lives in the same house as Imogen, I think it would have been easy to throw in some other element to that character, even if it doesn't affect her relationship with Imogen. Just something else about her other than she's mean.
Yeah, and that actually you mentioned, like, I don't think she was in it as much as I expected her to be in it. Like she did the bullying, and that did stick out. There were main events, there were main pop points, but I expected a lot more run-ins in the house. I mean, even though she was in the dance team and she was in drama, and I can understand how, you know, they wouldn't see each other, but their families have to have dinner at the same time at some point, you know?
Yeah.
So I did expect a little bit more run-ins.
I thought she was going to try life more. Like, I was expecting the whole time for her to, like, audition for the musical or something, or try to, like, take her job or something.
How is she going to ruin her life next?
Or try and take Grant more than she did. Like, she, like, asked him to one day. You know, like, so I was expecting her to, like, try and intrude on her life more, because the description kind of made it sound like she would.
Yeah.
So I'm, like, okay with the fact that she didn't, but I felt like the description made it sound...
I wonder if that's a sign of, like, Kelsey putting us into Imogen's shoes really well, though, because I feel like Imogen was expecting things like that all the time. Like, she's expecting her stepsister to just destroy everything, and she destroyed some things, but, you know, not everything.
So maybe there's something...
I think that's something that is really interesting about the book, is, like, kind of the unreliable narrator-ness of it, that, like, we kind of see these characters in a different light than they actually are. Because we're seeing them through, like, images.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too.
And she kind of has, like, a warped view of everything around her. So that was kind of interesting. Because, like, Evelyn, I kind of, like, thought she was, like, a really, like, snotty person for a while. And I was like, oh, no, she's actually really nice. Like, that was really well done. That was really, really well done. That, like, the characters definitely evolved just in the way you saw them.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
Let's see. Did anybody have any quotes that jumped out of them?
It's been too long for me.
I'm looking. Is someone monitoring comments?
I don't think there's
I can. Like, I will.
I was on there before, but...
Yeah, we have more viewers than we normally get for a book club, so that's really exciting. And we want you to stay. And if you have comments, comment.
Okay. This is one of my favorite lines. I think she was talking about Bryce. Or no, it was Jonathan. I think this was the scene where he stuck up for her in class when her stepsister came in, but when they were doing the partners. And it says, I've got a stepsister masquerading as Cinderella. The chauvinistic villainers think I'm the ugly stepsister, and the boy coming to my side is more likely to snag a prince than I am. I love that line. It was awesome.
That's amazing.
Let's see. Looking for pink.
Like, it's all really well written. Like, there's nothing...
I did like, who did she talk to? I think it was Grant. She called his boobs muscle boobs. I laughed at that. That was really funny. I had that. I don't know why I highlighted that, but I highlighted it.
I just prop it all up.
It's hard to talk at length about a book we've enjoyed this much.
Yeah, it is. Like, you're trying to, like, find something.
Things to criticize.
I think this... All right, so the safety pin drawing, I think that's my favorite illustration in the book. And that's actually right next to one of my favorite quotes because, I mean, I definitely know this feeling very well. It says, the hardest part about having pancakes with other human beings at 11 o'clock on a school night is that it would be considered rude to pour the syrup straight into my mouth.
Yes, I love that.
It's like, I just want to do anything other than talk to people right now, so I know that feeling. Let's see. I didn't highlight any more at the end. But I really enjoyed Bryce and Jonathan's relationship. I think they were crafted really well.
It was very, like, no nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's becoming a trope lately, is like every relationship has to have some sort of drama.
Yeah.
And all of them do. And this one didn't. And I love that, because it's like, you know, some people have stable relationships.
Right. And I appreciated Bryce for the fact that he tried to actually get Imogen to talk. And she told him a little bit, but she didn't spill her guts, which is realistic. You know, usually I see it's like someone's trying to get you to talk and like, okay, they break down and they tell you absolutely everything that's wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas her, she's actually reserved, just like her issues make her reserved. So she tells him a little bit to let him in, but nowhere near enough to make it unbelievable. So I really did like his character for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of this actually reflects on the fact that Kelsey Macke is a high school teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she actually
She does so much. How does she do so much?
So she's relationships and has such a grounded idea of what today's teenagers are actually like, and that definitely comes through in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Although I say that
I also really like
today's teenagers, so I have no idea.
Another like realistic thing about Imogen is like when she takes over the lead role in the play because of the actress getting drunk or whatever. I liked that it wasn't like, oh, she's suddenly this amazing singer and now she's gonna like go on to Broadway one day. 'Cause, you know, like I liked that it wasn't just.
Yeah, I expected that a little bit.
Adequate, you know. Yeah, I liked that she was adequate and that she kind of had to like force her way through the songs
and then
like
she was
it talks
nervous,
about,
like
you know, they
she
weren't
didn't
perfect.
remember. Yeah, she didn't remember like the last half of the play because it was just constant rolling.
Yeah.
And I did dance for a really long time, so like I remember that fear that gets instilled in you. Like if you start forgetting a step, but then you pick it back up, you forget the entire thing. Like you don't remember actually doing it, so you go off stage and you're like, okay, did I suck?
Like, did I do that right? I don't remember. yeah, I liked that because I was kind of expecting for her to like get up there and do it and be like, oh, she's actually like a really amazing actress and singer, but she's been holding herself back this whole time. But it was kind of like, no, like she still wants to just be behind the scenes, like that's what she's good at, and she's a decent singer, but that's it. And I thought that was cool.
Well, are there any other areas you guys wanted to talk about, or?
This is a little more serious, but I really loved how Imogen's struggles with self-harm were portrayed. Particularly the part where, is it Jonathan again who's back there helping her put the makeup over her arms?
It was Bryce.
Bryce. I get them mixed up a little bit. There were a lot of characters, but that part just had me like dissolving into tears because like who hasn't had something that they wanted to hide, you know? And so I thought it was just portrayed so well.
Yeah, Bryce. Other than Grant, Bryce is a really good friendship for her, and I think what's her Antonique? She was an amazing friendship for her because she comes, you know, from outside, and I did when I first met her. When I like literally, I met her. No, when she first came into the book. I kind of got that feeling like she knew a lot of people, if that makes any sense. Like, that's the vibe I was getting from her. But then when it was revealed that she had just moved there and it was really hard making friends for her, and how, you know, she was only mad about the whole, you know, journal being put public because she thought she lost one of her only friends. And I'm like, she's amazing.
Yeah.
She's a really good friend for her.
Yeah. And I thought that was really cool because I think a lot of times, like, we all do that. Like, we, like, meet someone or become friends with someone and we're like, oh, they're so much cooler than me. They have a much easier time with it than I do. Like, they obviously don't have any problems. You know, their life is so easy, and it's not. You know, so I thought that was really cool. I feel like a lot of the characters that Imogen thought had this perfect life that was so much better than hers, they all had their own problems.
Well, like in our writing chats, we always talk about how secondary characters shouldn't feel like secondary characters. To them, they are the main character, and that was very much the case with these characters. That like, I would read this story or their story at the same time from any character's perspective. Anyone.
And I don't say that often either.
Yeah.
Because there are characters that you like, but you're like, I wouldn't read a book with them. I would literally read a book with every character.
Yeah, I'd be curious to read like Ella's book.
I'd even read a book like from the character, like the guy who plays the prince in the play. Like I'd read his story. Like he was like even though he was in there, he was interesting. I liked him a lot. I liked that like he like wasn't like totally stuck up to her and everything. That.
Well, I mean, he was mean to her in the beginning.
The whole book. Yeah.
Like because when Ella came in,
she was kind of Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was into Ella at the beginning. Yeah, but I liked that he wasn't like, because she kind of had this perception of he's like really cool and he thinks I'm just stupid and all this stuff. But it was really that he just like never noticed her kind of thing.
Well, I think it was more like he's a decent person. Whereas in the beginning, he laughed out of I think the situation maybe it was just funny and like all his friends were laughing, so he was laughing. But then he actually got to know her a little bit, through drama. And then when Ella was making fun of her outside of the theater, he told her to leave, and I'm like, okay, I think I might start liking him a little bit.
Definitely.
And so that made me not hate that him and Antonique were dancing at the end, because I kind of you felt that relationship a little bit. I'm like, no, she can't. He's gonna hurt her. He's gonna do something, and I'm gonna want to murder him through the book. But he didn't. He's actually turned out to be pretty decent.
I wanted to hug him through the book instead. I was really interested in the mural and how Imogen is always looking for a quote that she knows her mom put up there, or for her mom's piece of art or whatever. And how she finds it at the end, and it's, for a happily ever after, the end is just the beginning, which is something her mom had always said to her. And I thought that was an interesting twist, I guess. It's a twist we're starting to see more of, I think, where, like, the answer was always in front of you, and it's a little bit of a letdown, but it's exactly what you need.
Yeah, I thought it was cool that, she was, like, looking for something that she already had, She spent all this time thinking it would make things better when it was, like, there in front of her the whole time. And she just wasn't, like...
Yeah. And, like, how she kept, her razor blade in the book that said that exact quote, and said, like, to my happily ever after.
Yeah.
And how she was just like getting so caught up in all of these things, and obviously it's not her fault. She has like some really big issues that she's not gonna just get over. But how some of those things she was letting get in the way when they didn't need to.
And one of the biggest parts of the book is Imogen's idea of her own image. Like, that's a huge part. And in the beginning, I was thinking, I'm like, all right, it's reflecting too much on her being overweight, but then that's legitimate, if that makes any sense. So, like, that people think about themselves all the time, no matter what you think about, if you have an insecurity, it is always on the back of your mind.
That kind of, those parts were really hard to read, but I think they were also really important to the story and to the character. Even though like she did have a lot of issues, and her weight was one of them, and her self-confidence was one of them, but it kind of like it drove a lot of life into her that she could make fun of herself sometimes. Like there was one time when I don't remember exactly what she was doing, but she was leaving. I think she was trying to avoid Ella on her way to school, and she's talking about opening up her doorway to leave to go to school, and it says, "I opened my door slowly and poked my head out like the fat gopher who decides when spring's gonna start." Like there's a bunch of little tidbits in there about her making fun of herself, but at the same time, I don't know, her I don't feel like her image is what was destructing her. Like the loss of her mother played a huge part in her going downhill, but it wasn't her weight that was making her depressed. Which was very different. I didn't expect that too much.
Yeah, I really liked that a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't like her weight wasn't making her depressed, but really like her depression was in a lot of ways caused. That happens for a lot of people. I've had a lot of friends who are depressed and they like gain a lot of weight.
Well, especially because I mean, stress eating was a big issue here. Like she had hiding places in her room, to hide food. To where that's what she did. That's why she was big, because she was stress eating. But
and a lot of
it's really.
everything right.
Oh
too.
yeah, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really nice, like, going through the book and reading and, like, finding something that you can, like, really, like, extremely relate to. And with Fangirl, Kath's almost entire character, like, I really dove into her. And with Imogen, there's this one scene, I'm just reading it, and it's her and Grant, and I think it was the part they pulled up at school or they pulled up at home from the car, and he has this shirt on that has F-E written all over it, and it says irony under it. And they spent, like, a whole entire page just goofing off, and he was overly explaining the shirt to her, even though she obviously understood it. So, like, he was like, "Do you get it? It's irony. It's iron." She goes, "Oh, I get it." And then he kept, like, saying it in different ways, and I'm like, "No, I do that all the time with my husband. Like, we do that constantly with things, like, oversimplify, even though we know the other person gets it." And it was just one of those moments where I was like, all right, I really like this book. This book is speaking to me now.
Yeah, definitely. I was wondering, what did you guys think of Therapist George? TG.
I feel like he had to have been in there. Like, his character couldn't have been gone. But I didn't think about him a lot throughout the book. Like, whenever he was brought up or went to him, like, I was like, oh, that's right, she's in therapy. Which, I mean, I remember she was in therapy, but I don't know. I think he helped her. I definitely think that, you know, her journaling through him is a really good idea. And, like, I think that he obviously had a really close relationship with her, having been her therapist for a really long time. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I liked that he was portrayed like a good, helpful therapist and everything, because I think sometimes when you read books where characters are going to therapy, a lot of times it's like, oh, my stupid therapist, they don't understand, you know? And so I liked that there was, like, a very, like, positive...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what stood out to me the most, too, was just that he was a therapist who understood. And, like, she knew that he was reading her, and she also kind of knew how to read him, too. Like, oh, he's asking me if we can open the window today. This is what he really wants to know.
Yeah.
Writing down in his notebook now. Maybe someday I'll get to see that.
Yeah, and I like that she, like, called him when she was, like, in a really bad, like...
in a bad place.
Situation and everything, you know, in, like, a really bad place. And it wasn't just a, oh, I hate going to therapy, they're making me do it, it's not helping at all. Like, she knew it was something she needed to do, and she knew it was helping, and all that, so.
Yeah, definitely. I struggled a lot with anxiety in the last year, and not like Imogen levels of anxiety quite, but as I was reading this book, it was kind of like at the peak of my anxiety problems in the last year, and I related to it so well. It was just like spot on, like everything she was feeling. Like sometimes I had to like step back from the book a little bit because I was like, no, like this is how I feel.
There were scenes that were hard to read, like legitimately hard to read.
Yeah. So she was definitely really spot on with all of the anxiety and all of the depression. At least in my own experience. I know that not everyone's experience is exactly the same, but I loved it.
Yeah, it was really well portrayed.
Well,
let's see, who else?
Not much going on in Comments Land.
See, that's the problem
I like
when we all talk about books that we like.
Yeah, we love it. It's so easy to
There's never a whole lot to talk about because it's not. Usually, when you talk about books, you're like, I like this, but this part I didn't like. But there's not a whole lot of back and forth now.
Just wait till next month. Next month is the Shatter Me series. And we'll have some titles that I would like to voice.
It's gonna run 4 hours.
Might get a little bit heated.
Yeah, I have strong feelings about that series. Both very good and very bad. So,
I am ready.
I love those covers, though.
I know.
The eyes are so beautiful.
Didn't they redo those covers with like a girl in the front?
The girl was the original
cover. Was awful.
Oh, okay, because I really like the eyes. The eyes are really cool.
I hated the girl, but the eyes are so cool. I want to just do some of the eyes. Yes.
Do we have a book picked for December? Does anyone remember what it was?
Yeah, it's
The selection series, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
selection.
yeah, you brought that on, Emma.
You've already read that. I still have to read those.
I'm reading Shatter Me first because I'm trying so hard to like actually remember things when I get to book club.
Yeah.
Well.
I have to like force myself to read the other two Shatter Me books because I just feel no motivation to read them because I just like the first one so much.
I'm gonna try. I can't make promises. I'm back at school this semester. I'm doing nano this year, so it's like all of these things happening at last minute. It's like I don't know if I can fit in 3 books.
Yeah, they are very quick. They're very quick reads. I read 1 and 2 in the same night because I knew if I didn't read the second one immediately after the first one, I would never finish the series. And I knew that we were going to be talking about it. But in the end, I'm very glad I finished it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to like do it in a weekend, but not like the one weekend before because then if I fail, I'll fail hardcore.
Do it like Thanksgiving weekend or something.
Oh, yeah, what date is that? I'm looking that up now.
My Thanksgiving weekend's done.
Lame. That's the 30th of November.
Yeah, right after Thanksgiving.
Another city, yo. I think we hit all of the really big characters. I super liked the rose that he made for Imogen out of the diary entry on hot pink paper. I thought that was a really cool, like, symbolic metaphor.
Yeah, and at the end when like literally the very end when she pulls it out of her pocket and she's talking to Grant how he turned something so ugly into something beautiful and how she's going to put it on her top shelf, on her bookshelf with all of the rest of the stuff. So I thought it was really cool.
I'm getting goosebumps. I'm feeling things.
Damn you, Kelsey Macke! But no, this is definitely top 5 of the year.
Yeah, definitely. Easily.
You loved it.
That's a chat I definitely want to do in December, like all of our favorite reads for the year.
Yeah.
I'm curious how many book club picks will get in there, because it tends to be a lot of this.
We've got a lot of, like, kind of general favorites. Your shirt has Elsa on it.
Oh, yes, it is a Game of Thrones Frozen mashup.
I need that in my life right now.
I spend too much money on t-shirts.
I'm trying so hard to not spend tons of money on things right now, and it's impossible. But I'm like, I could just walk around Barnes & Noble and buy books.
That's not a thing.
Yeah, my husband and I had to set up, like, a budget. So, like, if I work this many hours, then this many dollars goes into my book funds. And he made these little, like, Shinsky bucks. Monopoly money with our faces on them. And one with him and one with our dog. Awesome.
Yeah. Like, I have
I'm the child.
And then if I overspend, I just, like, change the budget so there's more money. So my budget stays
I don't have that flexible of a budget.
Yeah, it's bad.
I'm really bad at budgeting.
Yeah. I live in California, where everything is $1 zillion. So.
Oh no. Yeah, I've seen American Amazon prices. You got nothing to complain about.
That's true. I try really hard not to shop on Amazon though, unless it's like supporting a self-pub author.
Okay, but like generally your prices are lower for.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like I always
Like,
whenever I buy a book. Yeah, I always see like the U.S. and the Canadian price on every book, and I was like, I'm glad I live in
Sucks to be Canada.
I was buying books for I think Erica's birthday in August, and it was just like, look at all of these books I can get just to get to like the minimum free shipping thing, and she got like a bajillion books for that price. And I'm like, that would get me 2 books. It's very sad. All right,
yeah, I'm like trying to like buy a new car soon, so budgeting needs to actually happen.
I keep thinking that I will buy a car someday, and it's just not gonna happen. We're gonna have to move to like a podunk town for it to happen.
We need to trade ours in. Ours had a lot of miles on it.
So does my bike.
Alright, so next week we are doing the Word Nerds first birthday party. We have no idea what that's actually going to entail yet. It will be awesome, even though
Candy.
Yes, probably.
Halloween candy that we got on sale.
Yeah. I have a child who goes trick-or-treating, so I will have plenty of candy. She can't eat half of it.
Number one
She's
reason to
lactose
have
intolerant.
children.
All of the Kit Kats for me.
We're going next Saturday to the grocery store to get discount Halloween candy that didn't get adopted into loving homes, so we'll take it all. And then I imagine the rest of November is going to be writing chats on Sunday because it is NaNoWriMo, and I believe we're all doing it.
It is important.
Yes, my next video is actually the first day of Nano, so that's what my topic will be.
Yeah, expect lots of nano-y things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like
apologize
that,
in advance if you're not doing
that
nano.
Don't tune in.
Alright, any final comments on this week's topic, guys?
Go get it and read it because you're going to like it.
Yeah.
And
Obviously, we all loved it.
follow the author, Kelsey Macke, on pretty much on everything. She is at KelsNotChels, and she's amazing and wonderful and clearly a very talented lady.
If anybody missed her her guest vlogging, I think it was the last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Check out her channel too because she's like laugh out loud funny on her channel.
Yeah. And you can get Damsel Distressed for $10, I believe it is. So it's really.
I got mine for $9.95.
Yeah. So do it.
And the soundtrack is free if you buy the copy. And I think it's even if you buy like an ebook edition. You can still scan your e-reader and everything. Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's in the pictures.
QR code.
Like in all of the pictures, there's a specific code embedded in the design, and you just scan it with your phone and then listen to the song that correlates with the chapter scene that you just read. And I recommend reading and listening.
I'll put a link to the video where she talks about Damsel Distressed below after we're done with the post chat. But there is a way, if you don't have a smartphone, there is a website you can go to, I believe.
I think it's just damseldistressed.com. I believe it's streaming on her website. I'm not entirely sure though.
Yeah, something like that.
No, that's where if you scan the code, that's where it sends you. It sends you to the website.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't use QR codes, so I'm not sure how they worked. But that is how. That's legit.
All right. Well, I think that is us done for the evening then. So thank you, anyone who watched. We love you all, and we will hopefully see you next week. Mwah!